Okay. So our next speaker is Michał Buczko. Michał is working in a new voice media, a cloud service company, as a member of a payment card industry. Yes. His everyday job is to work with developers and provide them very good automated test cases for them to test their continuous delivery and integration platform. Michał wants to become a test champion, and he's trying to achieve that via inventing new and diverse methods of testing. He is also very happy to share his knowledge via public speaking. So without any further delay, let's give a big applause to Michał.
Hello, everyone. So there's a slight change in it. So my plan was to be better and better in testing, but turns out that I have got some skills around the business, and I started being a product owner from the last few months. So less technical work, but it proves that mostly the testers are pretty good at understanding the business, and this is one of the possible paths for the future for consideration. The things that I want to talk about is the security scanning with test automation. So maybe I will start with a few questions to you. How many of you are involved in implementing or running automation tests? Okay. How many of you are familiar with Selenium? Pretty good. How many of you are running security scans? Okay, much less. How many of you use Selenium for that security scans? Nobody. Oh, there were some persons at the back. Okay. So basically the main approach that I want to take is to try to convince you to try out the security scanning and to try to use Selenium as a scope that will be then reused by security scanners of your choosing. So at the beginning, a few words about myself. So I'm a quality coach and security tester in New Voice Media, but recently also an active product owner. I joined testing around 8-9 years ago, and I started to work with the card payment industry over 3 years ago. So this is the moment when I switched from straight functional testing to also security scanning and security testing and pen testing and everything that goes with PCI, so payment card compliance documents. And my free time, I'm starting to play with triathlons. So the picture that you can see, it's me running out from the water on one of the competitions. So the agenda for today is, the first thing will be that we'll speak about why security is important and why you should bother running security tests. We'll speak a bit around the test automation, and there will be like an examples of Selenium usage for it. There will be a few words about security scanners. So we will use OWASP ZAP as an example. And I will show you a combination or how to use Selenium with the ZAP scanner to have it as a part maybe of your continuous integration environment, or just on single machine as a functional testing or regression testing level. So the first thing, why the security is so important. How many of you use or keep your private life on any online medias that exists? Okay. How many of you got your account hacked on any of those platforms? Okay. So for example, I got my Facebook account hacked by some people from Taiwan. So my account was blocked until I proved to Facebook that Wrocław is my current place of living, and this is the place where I log in from. So how much is stored online? how much people put there. So we've got all those platforms like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and we share almost everything. So one of the things that came as an outcome of it, there was a page, "I'm not at home, please rob me." Did any of you heard about it? So basically, when somebody was checking in Facebook, Foursquare, Instagram, in any distant location that he's home, then there was a pin on Google Maps saying that this person is not at home, you can rob him. And they were just using public APIs to do it. So it was people sharing the information, they were just analyzing it, and if it was a distant location, you got like a green light over your home that this person is not at his home. Many people use online banking, online investment platforms that are pretty often attacked. There is e-commerce, so there are online shops. There are many platforms to buy or auction different things. And again, you put your credit card data there. There is it's called Software Bank, I believe. So basically, there's a platform method which is not compliant with any PCI standards. It's called Software Bank, and it's a German company. Basically, what they do is they iframe your bank page, and they are able to decrypt and see all the payment data that you are providing, even if it's using HTTPS, because they are signing the HTTPS channel over there. So if you can choose any other payment method rather than Software Bank, please do it. Because basically in the US, it's banned to use that platform. And the PCI DSS is saying that it's not compliant with them. So they should not store or use any payment data. There's the healthcare. So many of us use it to book a visit in a doctor's office. Some of us have online history of all our illnesses and the other stuff. So this is often used for attacks. And there's Donald Trump. So basically, he is like a person that he's using Twitter very often. And the side effect of that is that his tweets are making an impact on the economy of the US, on the newspapers, who once a week say that there will be a war in North Korea because Trump tweeted something, that he's done with negotiations and the first bomb will finish the negotiations and other stuff. So basically we came to a moment when there is high influence of the internet, even on the politics. So there is when Trump was visiting Poland, there was the whole campaign around fake news being stored online and used against some of the organizations or some people. And it started to being a topic of discussion in very different countries about how much the online life can impact on politics that should be internal for every country. The first conclusions is that there's so many code stored online. There's so many people using it. And based even on the voting we've got in a room, you almost all do test automation, but 20% of you are running the security scanning on the products that you work on. But it's pretty easy to do it, but a bit more. So if you want to be convinced more, the easiest way is to use #InfoSec on Twitter. So there is also Troy Hunt, who is a security expert, and he's got a page, Have I Been Pwned? And the idea behind it, he's collecting confirmed data breaches or account breaches that are being done. And he made a page when you can check through his database if your account was hacked. So basically, currently, he's got the data from 228 confirmed attacks. And he has almost 4 billion accounts of different people. You can use your login name, email, or whatever you want to, just to check. So based on the InfoSec hashtag, I collected a few Twitter messages from like last few days. So one of the funny things was that there was Iranian hackers who were trying to attack mailboxes for the people in the UK. And it turns out that Theresa May, who is the Prime Minister, was one of those. And her private account was hacked. And they got access to all the emails that she was storing there. Have you all heard about the breaking of the encoding protocol for the wireless networks? So basically, it's based, the crack attack is based on the fundamentals of that encryption. So basically, the algorithm was broken from the beginning, but nobody was taking too much care about it. And suddenly, now it is proven that anybody can break the encryption that you've got in the Wi-Fi, and only half of the producers of the routers applied that they will have a fix for it. And if you've got like a Huawei solution, like Huawei device, then you can throw it away because they are one of the producers who said that there will be no fix for the firmware that they will be producing. So the next thing is, for example, in the South Africa, there was a data breach that was affecting over 30 million people, and they've got all those data, like names, surnames, addresses, birthdays, everything that it's related. And the latest example from the last few days is in the US, there is a new malware, and the way that they decided to force people to open the attachments in the email is just to say they are the IRS. So it's like, for the US, it's like very trusted organization. Can you hear me? Good. So the 5 biggest. I don't know if it's working.
Oh, is this one better? We can switch.
Okay, this one is a lot better. So the 5 biggest attacks so far that are confirmed. The first one is the Yahoo. So it's the 2013. At the beginning, Yahoo said that there was like 1,000 or 10,000 accounts that was breached, but every next year they were saying that it's even more. So the latest update from not 2016 as in the slide, but 2017, is that it was almost 4 billion accounts. So every year they are saying that there was more and more. There was the Mirai attack. So this was related with IoT. So there was, in the US, there were cities, they were buying the cameras from China. And it turns out that it was used as a denial of service attack, and it almost turned off all the eastern part of the US from the internet. So Amazon, Google, Twitter, most of the platforms were affected. They arrested some British guy for this, but I don't believe that he was the person to do it, because basically 2 days later, the organization who produced the cameras, they just made a remote firmware upgrade to cover all the tracks. And this guy was arrested based on the information that he was showing the problem in the firmware of that cameras that was reused during that attack, and he was assumed to be the author of the attack. There was the WannaCrypt, breaching a lot of organizations worldwide, so there was a lot of companies which were turning off the internet access from their internal networks, just being afraid to do it. And the funny thing was that WannaCrypt was mostly using any known problems in the operating systems. And the reason why so many organizations was affected was because of not updating the Windows patches frequently enough. And basically there was already some patches for Windows servers to fix the issue, but those companies were using like an old version of the systems. There was the Equifax. So this was a data breach that shown over 150 US citizens' data around the addresses, names, birthdays, social security numbers, and ID numbers. And it was also affecting the Canada and United Kingdom citizens. And the latest one was Petaya. So this was also affecting a lot of public industry organizations. And to the solution, how to use it. So you all of you said that you are familiar with the test automation. So most of you are known with the Selenium and the Webdriver. So basically it's an open source solution that allows you to use UI testing on different web browsers. You can use it from the Selenium code, or you can write your test in Java, .NET, Perl, PHP, or whatever you want to use. It's connected with different operating systems, and you can even use it based on browser stack or any external platform which can run the tests on the slaves that are prepared for you. So in my assumption for this presentation, I assume that you run it locally on your own environment, because then you can combine it with those servers. So this is an example of implementation in Java of the automation in Webdriver. So basically you can use the JUnit annotation in it. You can run like code, like a part of before testing when you trigger the Webdriver to open a browser, and then you've got like a test part in which you have a function which is running the test steps, and you can close the test after the finishing, so you run an after, for example, function. And a bit more about security scanning. I want to focus more on this because most of you said that you are not running security tests. So my proposition is OWASP ZAP. So OWASP is an organization which is building a security standards and is cooperating with, for example, PCI organizations. So basically they built a report which is called OWASP Top 10 that is most common security breaches that you can have in your software or hackers can use to break to your software. There are reports saying that 85% of attacks are being done using the top 10 possibilities that are shown through OWASP, and 98% of those attacks are usually successful. So basically, mostly the reason is that there are reports saying how you can attack software or how you can defend your software, but many companies are just ignoring that, so they are just not having the budget, not having the time to run security scanning, and then they suffer from it. So OWASP ZAP is basically, they've got the UI in 25 languages, so there is no problem with language behind it. So they are free to use, so there's no problem with the licensing and no additional costs. Basically, you put the ZAP as a proxy between your web browser and between the web application hosted on your servers. And the ZAP is intercepting all the movement that you, for example, do during a functional testing or during a regression testing. And then based on the collected information, they can run additional attacks or crawls, so they can collect hidden URLs or whatever you want to, you have on your web server, but you don't put it like a part of your UI. And basically every tool, not only web browser, but every tool that you use for your testing. So if you have like non-UI interface and you try to use some sort of API testing, if that API goes through HTTP or HTTPS messaging, then you basically can configure the ZAP as a proxy. So that allows ZAP to collect all the information that you are having. And then you can still run the scans, and you still can have like a security scanning based on it. So it's not only browser related, but integrating Zap with a web browser, for example, Selenium, is like the easiest way, and it has the smaller costs that you can have based on either knowledge that you need to do it or the trainings that are needed. So if you are running as usual HTTPS, then you have to have like a connection between Zap and a browser that enables Zap to decode the SSL connection and the information pushed over there. So basically you open Zap, you go to tools, you generate your own certificate, and then just upload it in your browser, and this results with you have to add it that this is a trusted certificate, and this results with you having the ability to just decode HTTPS communication. So basically your security scanning is not only HTTP related but also HTTPS related, and this opens a whole new window for attack, and it's really just 7 steps to do it, and it's just clicking. It's not coding, not implementing anything in addition. You just import the certificates and everything is there. So basically how Zap looks like. So you've got like a panel on the left side in which you have all the collected get, post messaging. You've got all the attachments that are downloaded and some sort of folder-alike structure of your web applications. You've got decoded request headers on the top. Maybe I will go downstairs for a moment just to... Does it have like a laser or something? Yeah, it works. So basically you have like decoded HTTP headers, and you have the body of the request. Then you can go through the response, also decode the headers and the body. And there is also ability to rerun any requests, so we can modify it on the fly. You can have like a breakpoints and everything that you do during debugging. So it's not only developers' part that they can do debugging, anybody can do it. And you've got also like alerts tab in which you've got like a list of found vulnerabilities with the levels, so high, medium, low, minor. And then you have the details of every vulnerability that was found with pattern of attack and every details, how to break the software. If you have like CSRF things, then you can generate a sub-page or XSS attacks. It also allows you to generate a page on the fly to just trigger this sort of attack. So it doesn't require you to implement like a new form or any different web applications that should attack or iframe your application to run this sort of attack. These tools run everything for you. You just do a right click and you make like, please generate a CSRF page to try attack on this sub page or this request. And you also can produce a report about those vulnerabilities where you have all the details. So you have the URL, you have the parameter which was used to attack, and what was the attack pattern, what is the risk description. And basically when you generate those HTML reports, it's pretty easy even for the business people to understand what is the impact, what is the risk, and how. Sometimes it even provides you with an example of implementations how to fix the issue, or it points to a page on OWASP's blogs or any other public web pages like from Microsoft MSDN blogs or whatever, just giving you a proposed solution that can be used and can be solving your issue. And basically, what is the easiest combination? So the easiest combination is to run your regression or functional automated tests from Selenium and just configure the Zap as a proxy. So I will go again to show you a bit of the details. So this is an example of implementation in Selenium 2.0. So you run a browser, for example, Firefox proxy. You create a new profile, and you set all the HTTP and SSL proxies there with accepting all certificates. So the thing that this will gives you, so basically there are solutions like Foxy Proxy for Firefox, when you can set your proxy, but the problem is if you've got a pop-up windows, those pop-up windows will load with the default configurations instead of the one that you set in Foxy Proxy, because Webdriver, when it's opening, for example, Firefox, it does it in very specific way, and it doesn't load all the plugins and extensions that you have installed on your default browser instance. So this way of implementing that makes sure that every instance of the browser run through Webdriver will have this set manually. And if you got like a Zap open as a second application and you've got the same ports defined for Zap as you have here, then basically you got all the movement that your already implemented automation tests are doing cached through Zap. And then, for example, you have here implementation from Selenium 3.0. So it also sets up a profile, and this profile has the properties to set manual proxy type, to have correct ports, and then to accept all the certificates. So if the certificates is imported to your browser, then Zap is also decoding HTTPS movement. And this allows a lot more for them to decode. So basically, thanks to that, you've got the implementation of automated tests that most of you said that you are writing, and you already have. And you can have a Zap behind it. So basically, Zap can catch everything that your automated tests are using. And then, as a part of the free solution, like without any additional usage, Zap is running a passive scan behind it. So most of the trivial attacks that can be like ad hoc run through your web applications is being done as a part of this scanning. And then in addition, you can run an active scan when you've got all the top 20 types of attack, starting from SQL injections, through XSS, through path traversal and other stuff. And you defined how deep it should go through attacking it. And you can then wait. Sometimes it's minutes, sometimes it's hours. It depends on your configuration to get that application attacked. The good thing is that most of those tests are run in a way that it doesn't affect the final server. So usually they don't have the ability to, I don't know, if there's a successful SQL injection, it won't break your database. It will catch it during running the test and just will say there's a potential SQL injection, this is the pattern of attack, and this is the place in your web application. If you try to check that result, double check it, and run a manual test, then usually you will get a successful SQL injection on your database, and that will be the moment when you break your database. So Zap usually don't do it, but it might happen that you will broke. So don't try it on pre-production or production servers. Make a separate environment for the security testing, at least for these manual runs. And if you have to do it through some cross-organization used environment, then run only the Zap scanning, but skip the part when you're manually checking that. This requires an additional environment for you to do it. So in my organization, we had troubles like this. So there was a pen tester who wanted to run manual tests, and he affected the production a little bit. The good thing was that in this region, there were only 2 customers on that server, so it wasn't too bad for them because we were able to fix it in several minutes. But still, Zap proved that there is an SQL injection on one of the servers, and he was just trying to double check that. So just as a summary, the easiest way how you can have it as a part of your solution for building your software, you can have your build tool. You can have Jenkins or whatever you want to do. You can have the Webdriver as a part of the suite. So in your pipeline, you can have automated tests being run on one of the environments. Those tests will use some sort of web browser and will have Zap behind it and will attack your web applications. So basically when you have your automation in your own products, it's just adding one more step to it, and that gives you like a first basic knowledge about how secure your software is. The thing that is like a downside of this proxy-alike applications is that they produce a lot of false positives. So basically, when we started to use it this way, it was like 85% of things that were thrown as a security breaches were false positives. But it's not hard to just double check them if you are not feeling technical enough as a tester to do it, because some of them are just running different types of attacks through a very specific parameters. It's really easy for the developers, based on the report, to know how to debug it or how to double check if the database is secure. So sometimes the Zap is saying that, for example, your web application allows to do some sort of SQL injection, but sometimes it's the web app who allows it, but there is the database which is blocking that or escaping some different chars or whatever it is. So this is a starting point for you to work with developers. So in our project, we started with the known false positives Confluence page, for example, and we start to store all those false positives, but in more generic description. So then when there was a new tester running the Zap scans, he was just double checking first with that page if everything is okay. And for example, in my project, when we fixed all the high impact issues and medium impact issues, it was the moment when we were getting a yearly audit through external pen testing, and it was the first audit which didn't result with any security patches required or any findings by the external pen testing organization. So basically, when you handle most of the findings from Zap, it really allows you to feel pretty secure about the product that you are sharing with the customer or sharing with different external organization. But usually Zap allows you to feel confident, and even if you show them through the Zap report that this is the security scans that we were run and there are no high impact problems, no medium impact problems, the customer is usually aware how good the OWASP organization is and how easy they can double check it, double verify it, and that they also can feel a lot secure with your product. If you want to start using this, there is also a OWASP WebGoat product. So this is IIS or Tomcat related application that you can host on your local machine, and you can play with Zap against it. So basically, WebGoat gives you the ability to have an application which has defined security problems, and you can go through the wiki page of the WebGoat and you can double check how you can attack it and how you can find some of the problems. So you can check it through Zap, and then you can work on your manual skills just to be better prepared. And do we have any questions? You can say it loudly, I can repeat it. Okay, yeah, so there is a scripting part of Zap in which you can write, there's like a command line part of it, so you don't have to do it through the UI. You can trigger even Zap through Jenkins command line operations, and you can start Zap with defined the port that it should be using, and then you can run a command which is saying, please generate the HTML report on this path. And yeah, this is one of the possibilities how you can do it.
Can we switch to the Slido?
Yeah.
Or? Okay, so let's switch to the top questions that were voted. Okay. Is it working?
Yeah.
Great. So, let me read the top question. Have you heard about GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, which takes the force on the May 2018, and how we can apply secure checks in terms of automation?
Yeah, so basically one of the things is that OWASP should be providing the new top 10 stuff during last year, and they didn't share it, and they didn't share it during this year because of exactly this regulation. So basically the idea is that probably Zap will be more compliant with it at the beginning of the next year, and there will be a new version of Zap that is straight compliant with the Zap standards. In my own project and my company, we have postponed the idea about thinking on this regulation till the beginning of the next year. One of the reasons is basically I work in a British company, and that British company is taking a part in investigating the Brexit as a whole. And basically this is in May, so if Brexit happens, it might be possible that there will be different standards for the British organization and British products, or not. So it's still, at our side, it's a very urgent topic, but postponed because of the political stuff.
Okay, let me read the next question. Security scanners are producing a lot of false positives. Any tips to reduce this problem when integrating it with CI?
Yeah, so basically you cannot skip that. The problem with the scanners is that they produce a lot of noise and false positives, and our approach was about this Confluence page. So basically we were trying to move those false positives to a more generic level and then store it over there. And usually Zap, for example, it gives you a grouping mechanism based on the top 10 categories. So it says that there's an SQL injection and there's a list of attacks. And if you just scan through that results and scan through your Confluence page, for example, in our product, when we run monthly regression tests with security scanning, and we've got like updates of the PCI applications over there, call center applications and Microsoft patches, then just comparing those two reports takes us up to 2 hours, because you don't have to go deeper. If it's like we store it on a category level, and then in addition we've got like a parameter and a pattern of attack. So there's only those 3 informations, and usually they just repeat themselves time after time. So there's a different parameter, the same type of attack on the same URL, for example. And this way you've got like a single row in your Confluence page saying that if there's an SQL injections through, I don't know, time sleep parameter, then this is a false positive. And suddenly it takes out like 100 of messages from your Zap report, for example. So it's pretty easy to filter that out after you just debug it and double check that this is really a false positive.
Okay, we have time for more questions. So the next question, which of the security scanner tools are from your point of view the most useful for testers, taking into account typical security testing activities?
Yeah, so I would say it's Zap. Because it's free, because it's standardized, and because that organization, so OWASP, is like the main organization around the security. So they give you the tool, and they provide most of the reports about the top 10s of attack. They update it every few years and double check it against what happens in the real life. And this way, this is one of the most efficient products. From the usage perspective. So I tried to use Burp Suite, for example. This is like a different solution. So one of the problems with Burp Suite was that the good to use version of the software is having a licensing behind it. So every time you want to use it, you have to buy additional license for every tester. So there is a cost change between the free software and the paid software. And Burp Suite, to be honest, I did like a 3 days dry run through Zap and Burp Suite. And Zap, at least from the passive scanning perspective, was pretty straightforward for me. It was just setting up the proxy and getting the results. And Burp Suite was asking me for a lot more configuration, and I was not feeling pretty confident about using it. So I would say it's Zap.
Okay, moving on to the next question. We still have time. Is it possible to integrate Zap with environment without Gui Docker?
So I never tried to integrate with a Docker, but we tried to integrate it with the APIs, which were using HTTP or HTTPS connections and requests. So basically everything that can go through a proxy, if any part of your application or system can have a proxy between the source of the requests and the server endpoint, it can be cached through Zap. It's just a matter if you can configure a proxy between it.
Next question. What about time and the cost for developing automatic security tests? There are a lot of security issues, i.e. 0 days, that we don't know how to find and protect systems. Pen testers should non-stop writing and launching automatic security tests.
So my idea is that the solution between Webdriver and Zap gives you the ability to use not security-related automation, but you have your functional-related automation. So basically, you have your all happy path scenario automation scripts. You have your all false or error paths, everything that you do as a part of your functional testing or regression testing. And then you just put a proxy in the middle. So there is no need for additional implementing automation security tests, because Zap makes all the functional automation a part of the security scanning. So every step that your automated tests do in your web application is being then reused by Zap to run a security scans. So I would like to say also that from my perspective, the pen tester is never writing too much automatic security tests. So usually pen tester is building some sort of environment which he used to attack the final application. And usually he's doing that through the manual analysis. So he's either analyzing the binaries that are provided from the server, or he's analyzing the source code of the applications. And from the external pen tests that we had in our applications or internal pen tests, usually this is being made like through a crafting of some sort of security attacks. So I didn't met any pen tester who was writing like automated security tests.
Okay, let's move to the next question. From your experience, how long it takes for Zap to run the passive scan? Is it slow so it can postpone the integration if we add it as a part of automated check for every change?
So the passive scan happens behind the automation itself. So there is no additional overlay through the time to run the passive scan. It all happens in the real time once the requests are being processed by your system. It's the active scan which requires like sometimes even days. So it depends on how deep you define it to attack. So there's like, when you have your tests being configured, you define the scope. There's like options for minimum, medium, maximum, and then you define the depth of attack. And there is like amazing, and there are some levels which, when you go through SQL injection on a single web page, it takes 8 hours to scan it. So you need to write like a good combination. So usually Zap asks you to run it through like a medium from the top to the bottom. And one of the good things is when you run an active scan, you have the ability to choose the technology stack. So basically when you have options around the databases or around the language which is used to code or the platform, where is it hosted, you can choose, is it MySQL, is it SQL Server, is it a DB2 from IBM, is it a PHP application or .NET, does it use XMLs or JSONs or any other? So you can, based on choosing just applicable options from that technology stack, you can reduce the time that it takes to run the active scan. And then again, by lowering some sort of impacts of some tests, you can still lower that. But the passive scanning itself, it happens in a real time, so there is no delay.
Okay, last question. What other scanners do you use in your work?
So currently we use only Zap, and the reason for that was that when we found all the false positives that Zap was producing, and we removed them from the scope, and we only focus on the new findings that go through monthly security scans. We are having like the PCI DSS compliance audit and ISO audit every year, and before starting of that audit, there is a requirement to run full pen tests through third-party organizations, and we stopped having any issues raised by them based only on the results from Zap. So that's why we moved away from any other tools.
Okay, that was our last question. So thank you for participation in this presentation. That was Michał. Let's give him a big applause.
Thank you very much.